Manistique, Paul and Ken, and a lot of my friends from this area. This is like one of the first GOP party meetings I went to. In the basement of the county building here, they had their GOP meetings, and this was like one of the first ones I went to. I mean, Tom Casper took me to one in Hope County. And then I came, this is probably the second, campaign event I did in my life. It was coming before these guys here and introducing myself and talking about my platform. So I feel really great about being back here in Manistique, and it was great. I turned down the trip to Baltimore. Got a free trip to Baltimore for the GOP conference this weekend, but I'd rather come here.
Thank you.
You remember my campaign, the 4 R's. We read it, we use it, we feel it, and we reform it. And I think I've done pretty well on that fine, to tell you the truth. I've read every piece of legislation that I voted for. And that's really quite an accomplishment.
Thank you.
And I've also understood, I think, what I was voting for. My staff read it, highlight it, we research it, the lawyers look at it, the Congressional Research Service, and really it's been a challenge and to try to understand it, but I think that I've read everything that I voted for, and I think I voted for it, voted in the way that the majority of the people in the first district would want me to vote. Sometimes even against the way I felt I should, in my own personal opinion. And I think that's been a good thing. I'll give you some examples. I promised to repeal Obamacare. Well, we voted to repeal Obamacare in the House, but it didn't pass the Senate. And that's sort of an example of what we've been accomplishing in the House. We've passed 28 different bills in the House, including a budget, that have failed in the Senate because they haven't been brought up. They've been tabled, and you talk about a do-nothing Congress, it's really a do-nothing Senate, right? But I'm pretty proud of our accomplishments in the House. We reduced spending, not as much as we like. We've actually cut discretionary spending at the federal level for 2 consecutive years. That's the first time that happened since the Second World War. It's not as nearly as enough cutting spending, but again, considering that we represent 1/3 of the government, we've actually got something done. In my own office, we cut spending 5%. We spent $50,000 less in 2011 than Mr. Stupak did in 2010. And in 2012, we would be spending $50,000 less than that. Besides that, besides cutting the overall budget by $50,000, we still didn't spend another $50,000. So I've been really frugal in my congressional office and returned, spent nearly $100,000 less than the previous we've done some significant reforms in Congress that you may not really be aware of. The fact number one is there are no more earmarks. There's not a single earmark in the year of 2011 that you may not be aware of. And that changed the entire culture of the House. We all realize we've got a long way to go. I'm going to tell you about a few things I've learned in my first year there. Despite a lot of the negative comments about government, I will know one thing I learned is that American people are still really involved in their government. How do I know this? Well, every single day I get between 200 and 300 emails or phone calls or letters from constituents every day. Okay? 69,000 pieces of communication were answered by my office last year. So people are interested in what's going on, or asking me questions, and they are giving me their opinions. So it's been great. Another thing I learned is that I cast 964 votes last year, and 2 people disagreed with some of those votes. It's just amazing the different comments that you get, because you know, some people think I'm way on the right, and some people think I'm way on the left. So it's just amazing to hear that come back. You know, as a surgeon, I'm used to getting what I want. You know, my way or the highway. But and when you're in Congress, you don't get your way. You don't get to have everything you want. You have to vote for things that you don't particularly like. And that's been quite a learning experience. So it's great. I want to tell you one of my great successes, and that is something that Paul mentioned. I sponsored a bill earlier in the year, what they call the pre-decisional process, to change the way the rules work in the federal forest and how they conduct timber sales. Up to now, the Forest Service is going to conduct a timber sale. It could be stopped at any point in the process by a lawsuit, up to the point where the loggers are on the property, they put down their bond, their equipment's ready to go, and they're going to start cutting tomorrow. That could be stopped by a lawsuit. And that was the #1 problem the Forest Service identified to me, fix, to make their process easier. So I wrote a bill after talking to the Forest Service and some logging guys and timber guys, and well, I got the language of my bill incorporated into the Interior Appropriations Bill. I know the chairman of the Natural Resources Subcommittee, and I got it incorporated into law. The president signed it. So it's really a huge accomplishment that the Forest Service is now changing the regs, and within 6 to 8 months they're going to have whole new rules as to how they conduct forest sales. And it will ease the process of getting trees cut down in the federal forest significantly. So I'm pretty happy with it. In Northern Michigan, we have 3 federal forests. And I'm hopeful that it will put more people to work. You know, there's a lot of frustration about a lot of stuff. All right? I mean, I could go on and on, really. I just want to mention the biggest thing, I think, was the debt ceiling. You know, we voted to raise the debt ceiling. It's something that I probably wouldn't have voted for, but I realized that it was the majority of people in the district did not want to stop the government, shut the government down. People in business who had a lot of loans were concerned about their interest rates. People on Medicare and Social Security worried about getting their check. Military families are worried about their military people getting their paychecks on time, people with contracts with the government. Basically, you know, all the comments I had was don't shut the government down. And really as a political loser as well, because then Barack would blame us for, you know, he was making it sound really bad and would blame us for that and, you know, potentially lose the 2012 election. So we made some, you know, decisions that are not really that much fun to, you know, to have made. But really everything we're doing is to pave the way for the elections of 2012. All right, because you and I know that with this administration and the Senate that we're not going to get all the stuff that we want done. We put a stop to the progressive agenda that he had in his 2 years of office. They're not passing bills that spend trillions and trillions of dollars more now. That's just stopped. But we haven't peeled back the stuff he accomplished in the first 2 years. And that's not going. We're not going to be able to do that until we change the administration, because, you know, with 1/2, you know, 1/3 of the government, we just can't be the Democratic Senate and the Democratic White House. We have to win in 2012.
Amen.
Yeah.
As so you all know, you all are concerned, you are worried about this country like I am. We have to work hard, like Sharon Wise was telling us. We have to volunteer and educate our neighbors as to how serious this is. Explain to them why Mr. Obama is not a good president. Explain to them why the economy is not working with all his regulations and his weird tax ideas. Why our unemployment is 8%. And the highest rate of long-term unemployment since the Great Recession. All right, it's his policies that are stifling people in business and not letting them, earn a living and hire people because they're worried about what the regulation is going to change 2 months from now. We can't even pass a one-year budget; they get 2-month extensions. So we need to change the administration. And we need your help to go out there and educate your friends that aren't here tonight, your neighbors. Every person that we educate talks to 2 or 3 other people. We need to win this election. We need to maintain a majority in the House. I want to stay there for a while. Good. We need to beat Debbie Stafford. We've had, America's had a lot of challenging days like this in the past. But I'm confident that we will once again rise to the occasion in 2012, just as we always have, and just as we always will. So thank you, and may God bless you all. I'm looking forward to hearing from the candidates.
Thank you, Dr. Benishek. At this particular time, I'd like to welcome to the podium our moderator and co-chair of the Republican Party.
Yes, first of all, I have never been affiliated with the Democratic Party. We were expecting Greg Andrews from Governor Snyder's office in today, but he had some scheduling conflicts. But he did send a note here that I'm going to read. Bear with me, I got it about an hour and a half ago, so it's not quite memorized. Starts off with good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to congratulate Paul Walker and the Schoolcraft GOP for hosting such a wonderful event. I wish I could be with you all today. Second, I'd like to thank you for welcoming my family and me to the UP. Moving to a new community has both challenges and opportunities, and we certainly appreciate the friendship we have in the room. What a year it has been for a great state of Michigan. 1 year ago, Governor Snyder and our legislators took their oaths under very difficult conditions and have done a remarkable job. Over the last decade, Michigan has lost 857,000 jobs. During this time, we experienced a mass exodus of our youth and talent, as we were the only state to lose population over the last census. We even lost a congressional seat. Michigan was not last in everything. We did lead the country in foreclosures and unemployment. Michigan had a $1.5 billion deficit. Prior years, Lansing was unable to balance the budget on time, leading to government shutdowns. We were on the ropes. We've been in a free fall for so long, we almost got used to it. Thankfully, that's where we were. That is the past. Our administration is focused on solving problems, on bringing the citizens of Michigan value for money and changing the Lansing culture from being negative to positive. As we witnessed, Governor Snyder is not pointing fingers or laying blame. Not once have we heard Governor Snyder lament about the position Michigan is in or was when he took office. Quite frankly, it's a waste of time and energy. Wouldn't it be nice if our speaker or our spender-in-chief took the same approach? Sorry, had to throw that one in. From the beginning, Governor Snyder and our legislature have understood our state's condition as they focused on solving problems. 2011 saw relentless positive action from Governor Snyder and our legislature. Together, we were able to make sweeping positive reforms to reinvent Michigan, Please keep in mind these changes were not easy. Our team carried a lot of the heavy water over the last 12 plus months. If I listed all the accomplishments for the year, Paul would be here for a lot longer than he'd like, and he'd likely take me to the woodshed the next time we see each other. So I'll just touch on some of the big stuff. In 2011, we saw a structurally balanced budget, the earliest in 30 years. The elimination of a $1.5 billion deficit without any one-time fixes or accounting gimmicks. Tax reform eliminated the job-killing MBT to a 6% flat corporate tax that is simple, fair, and efficient. No more double taxation for our job creators. The preservation of 98% of the education funding during the budget process. The creation of stable funding source for the successful Pure Michigan advertising campaign to grow tourism and rebrand our great state. Teacher tenure reform, regulatory reform, government reform, urging local units of government to use the best practices and regional cooperation. The reining in of cost of public employee benefits, an updated emergency manager law, a refocused MEDC to provide greater assistance to Michigan businesses. The governor demonstrated fiscal responsibility by putting $255 million into the rainy day fund and paying down the unfunded liabilities by $400 million. The governor openly supports the expansion of mining and timber industries. These and the rest of our 2011 accomplishments are an outstanding start to the reinvention of Michigan, but we have a lot more to do. Today, just like in 2011, Michigan is getting it right and getting it done. As we look to the future, Michigan needs to focus on continuing its reinvention, which brings us to transportation and infrastructure. We cannot reinvent our state without first shoring up its foundation. The same innovative thinking will be vital as we seek to rebuild our aging sewer systems and unsure safe drinking water for all our families. Further, Governor Snyder stated, "Better roads drive better jobs." Michigan put the world on wheels, and we need to continue to be a transportation leader in order to stay competitive in today's global economy. As we look to the future, it's vital we invest and upgrade our road system, sewer, water, broadband, and yes, bridges. Let's discuss bridges for 1 second. This is the perfect segue to the bridge in Detroit. The NICC project is vital to Michigan's future. If we are to expand trade with our largest trading partner, Canada, we need another bridge that is in direct connect from our freeway system to Canada's. The current system is proven to be inefficient at best. Bridges between countries are proven economic arteries. We need more flow. In closing, Governor Snyder ran on the platform of job one is jobs, and he is making it good on that statement. 2012 will prove to be another outstanding year for the reinvention of Michigan. We need to keep our team intact to continue this momentum. It is vital that our legislators from up here in God's country stay in office. Please give them as much support as possible during the next election. Thank you, Greg Andrews. Well, we're going to start our candidate forum, and we are pre-allotting time. I know you're probably asking why we do that, but believe it or not, some of these guys can really, really talk. Our first up, we're going to have a representative, and make sure you understand that our order is all random. It's not alphabetical. It's not by preference, so no one get upset with me. But first up, our U.S. President candidates and representatives, and we're going to have Dennis Lennox from the Mitt Romney campaign.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the opportunity this evening, and thank you very much to Paul for all his hard work and his energy in organizing this event. On behalf of Governor and Mrs. Romney, I send their regrets for them not being able to attend this evening's function, but they also want to congratulate the Schoolcraft County Republican Party for all of your hard work over the past 2 years in rebuilding this party, in particular, again, Paul, the energy that everybody has shown. I also see that Congressman Benishek is here this evening. Congressman, thank you very much for the leadership that you're providing for our party and our principals in Washington. You're truly making a difference, and also thank you again for your support of Governor Romney yesterday. I know your endorsement means a lot to the governor. As you all know this evening, the polls have closed in South Carolina. Governor Romney was honored to receive incredible support in Iowa and in New Hampshire, and he has worked tirelessly right up until the polls closed 20 minutes ago in South Carolina for each and every vote. He's been honored to have the endorsements of noted conservatives like the governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley, the governor of Virginia, Bob McDonnell, and others. Governor Romney is taking every state seriously because it isn't about winning just one state. It's about winning 1,150 delegates to get the Republican nomination, defeat Barack Obama, and make him a one-term president.
Amen.
Most importantly, this long road to the Republican nomination comes right through Schoolcraft County and Manistique and throughout Michigan on February 28th, just a little over a month from now. As our primary approaches on February 28th, you can expect to see Governor and Mrs. Romney right back here in their home state of Michigan, because Michigan truly does matter. If there's one state in the country for Republican candidates to offer up an alternative to the job-killing policies of President Obama's administration, it is Michigan. Michigan can lead that conversation. Governor Romney understands that, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to win Michigan and demonstrate that President Obama's presidency has truly been a failure. President Obama promised to fix the economy. We gave him a chance, but he's failed the American people. This election is about electing a strong leader, someone who understands the real economy, somebody that has worked in the real economy, that has created jobs, and understands what it takes to not only create jobs, but what happens when government regulates too much and forces jobs to go away. We need a president who realizes that government isn't the answer, that being a creature of Washington isn't going to create jobs. We need a chief executive officer, and Governor Romney is that candidate. So I thank you very much for coming out this evening. I understand there's a large amount of speakers this evening. If there's any questions afterwards, I'd be more than willing to answer them out there. I believe at each and every one of your places there should be a literature card from Governor Romney, as well as a card to sign up to be part of Team Romney. We have a great team here in Michigan, chaired by our Attorney General, Bill Schuette, and co-chaired by our Speaker of the State House. So we would love to have you on your team. Feel free to fill out that card, either drop it in the mail or hand it to me, and we can make sure you get on the list and get the updates as we move forward to February 28th. But again, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Next up, we have representatives from the Ron Paul campaign, Elisa Sedler.
Hello, my name is Lisa Sedlar. I'm a local girl. I live in Escanaba, and I am the regional coordinator for Ron Paul, Michigan, for 3 counties. I did not grow up in a political family, so when I reached the age of 18, I had to ask myself, well, what am I? Am I going to vote Democratic? Am I going to vote Republican? And so I kind of looked at what it meant to be a Democrat, and in the end I decided I had to go with Margaret Thatcher, who said, the trouble with socialism is that sooner or later you run out of other people's money. So I decided I'm a Republican because I believe in fiscal conservatism. I think that your financial house is not in order. You can't move forward with anything else until that's settled. I also believe in the rule of law, and I think that our Constitution is one of the finest documents ever known to humanity, and I value that document. Amen. So I remember also being so excited when Tom ran for your office the first time. I was so excited to see you get political and the amazing success you had. Tom and I went to school together. And so I was all Republican going forward, and then I felt betrayed. I saw that the government continued to grow. I thought the Constitution is being trammeled, and something had to be done. So I just went away and in disappointment and apathy, and I thought, what, is there any hope for our country? Then along comes Ron Paul, and it reignited in me a passion for hope for our country, to be the kind of country that I felt it was when I was growing up. I'm excited because of Ron Paul's message. We have to get the spending under control. We have to cut spending where the ship is sinking. We can't wait very much longer and fool ourselves that tinkering around the edges will solve our problems. Also, I like, here's a man who actually honors his oath of office to uphold the Constitution. And for once, I think there's a man that doesn't lie to me. He's going to do what he says he'll do, and he answers all his questions directly. So this, I become passionate about Dr. Paul, and you can see that I've stepped way out of my comfort zone to support him. I've devoted a lot of my time and energy and money to try to get him elected. And I'm not the only person. The surprising thing that I found is that all around us in Menominee County, in Delta County, in Schoolcraft County, throngs of people come to our meetings. People who have never voted before are saying, how do I sign up to register to vote, for goodness sakes. Dr. Paul is igniting a passion and a hope for our future among a whole new generation of voters. And even though I'm a political newbie, anyone can tell that you need the independent vote, you need the youth vote, and you need the crossover. We see this happening at a national level, but I see this happening at the meetings that we have locally too. We're getting lots of blue Democrats or blue Republicans coming over from the Democratic Party to join because they are disgruntled with Barack Obama, just as we all are. And now I've heard the various numbers, but I've heard numbers as high as 40% of the American people identify themselves not as Republicans, not as Democrats, but as independents. And Ron Paul is getting that independent vote. Also, in the last couple of primaries, Ron Paul far and away swept the youth vote. Now I ask myself, why does he sweep the youth vote? And the answer that I come up with is that in my family, I have 3 teenagers. We had a little go-around with the cable company, and so we were without the TV for a month. And I thought I was going to have a mutiny on my hands. But surprise, nobody cared. Nobody cared that we didn't have a TV. Why? Because all the kids are on their own laptops. They are wired, they're connected. And I see that as the reason that Ron Paul gets the youth vote. It's because the youth get a chance to hear Dr. Paul's message in its entirety, in a way that people who only get their news through the mainstream media are not privileged to hear his message. The more people hear his message, the more people come. I heard a wise man say once that you can tell the truth content of a message by how far people are willing to go to get to that message. And I think that Ron Paul has a very high level of truth content in his message and his plan for the American future. So in order to defeat Barack Obama and get the White House and get our America back on track, we have to get the independents. We have to get the crossovers. We have to get the youth. Ron Paul can do that, and I hope that you'll consider voting for him on February 28th. Thank you very much.
Next, we have our U.S. Senate candidates and representatives. First up, Gary Glenn.
Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Very good.
I find that I frequently say that I was raised on Reagan and I've been hard to please ever since. I married the 1980 Youth for Reagan state chairman, my wife, Ned. Even tell if she was state chairman of Youth for Reagan 30 years ago, she was still in elementary school. We got married on March 4th. Didn't know until after the fact that that was the same day as Ron and Nancy got married. And we got an anniversary note from them on White House stationery. And when we have the privilege of doing so, we like to bring our real secret weapon, my 17-year-old daughter, Reagan Elizabeth Glenn. I think the issue that ought to dominate the debate in the United States Senate in Michigan in 2012 is this one statistic. You've seen politicians go on TV and take credit for how many jobs they created. So surely Debbie Stabenow will take responsibility for the fact that on her watch, in the 10 years she's been in the United States Senate, our state has lost 800,000 private sector jobs. The worst job loss in America. So what Ronald Reagan said 30 years ago is still true today. A recession is when somebody you know lost their job. A depression is when you lose your job. And a recovery is when Barack Obama and Debbie Stabenow lose their job. I mean this in all seriousness. I was in Washington a couple of months ago, and as I was headed back to the airport, a very dark cloud of oppressive thought descended on me. I realized if I were to win this election, I have to go there and stay. The monuments are pretty, but it's a political snake pit. It's not like living in Larkin Township outside of a small community down in the Lower Peninsula. Most disruptive thing for my family would be to actually win. I've got young kids still at home. So why would I risk winning and spending all the time and effort and money it'll take to get there? Well, I'll tell you a story. I was raised by a World War II Marine. This Marine survived the attack on Pearl Harbor. I'd always wanted to do this. You've seen the movie Saving Private Ryan. It begins and it ends in the graveyard at Normandy, the old Private Ryan with his family. I'm so grateful to the Lord that the year I got in my spirit the impression, do it this year, that I did. So the last December, my dad was alive. Annette and I took my mom and him back to Hawaii. I stood in the same street in the same spot he remembered standing, shooting at Japanese airplanes. Later, we were on the USS Arizona Memorial. I carry a picture I took of him in my wallet with the commander of all Marine forces in the Pacific, and my dad was wearing a purple lei, which identified him as a survivor. And what that meant was that general and the admirals and the captains and the lieutenants saluted my father, former Staff Sergeant James R. Glenn. We found his best friend's grave later that day, and that young man's gravestone had his birthday and his death day on his stone. He was exactly 17 and a half years old when he died on the USS Oklahoma. I tell you that because when I searched my heart for the reason, why are you running for the United States Senate? It's because my father, not just by his words, but by the example of his life, taught me to love my country. And I believe that everything he taught me to love about my country, that your parents and grandparents no doubt taught you. Our liberty, our free enterprise economy, our strength and security, our free enterprise economy, and our founding Judeo-Christian principles are at imminent risk of being lost in a way that I would never, as an American, have conceived possible. I believe that if Barack Obama and Debbie Stabenow are re-elected, given another term, given the opportunity to finish the job of implementing their agenda, they threaten to take away my children's birthright of freedom and turn our country into the United Socialist States of America. And we and our children might not ever get a free country back. So I assume I'm standing here for the same reason you're sitting there. You feel a sense of duty. I don't wear either uniform anymore, but I'm an Eagle Scout, as are 3 of my sons and 1 on the way. I swore an oath to do my best, to do my duty to God and my country. And 20 years later, I took another oath, and I know some of you in here took the same oath, to uphold and protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I believe the threats to our liberty today come more from sources that are domestic than from any power outside the borders of this country. Now, I match that sense of duty with a life's experience that has taught me if I do what my dad said I ought to do, stand up and fight for what I believe in, I can make a difference. I ran the campaign in the 1980s that successfully passed a right-to-work law in the state of Idaho. If I'm a U.S. Senator, I'll support that policy in Washington, D.C. as well. As a county commissioner, 16 years ago, I authored the first medical savings account healthcare plan for county employees anywhere in America. Was invited to testify before Congress and called a national pioneer in free market healthcare reform. And for the last 12 years, I've been president of the American Family Association of Michigan, promoting traditional Judeo-Christian values, and was one of 2 co-authors of the Marriage Protection Amendment that was on our ballot back in 2004. That got 60% of the vote from the notion that marriage should remain only between a man and a woman, and got majorities of the vote in the city limits of Detroit and Flint and Saginaw. So whether it was labor law reform or protecting traditional family values or healthcare reform, I've got a record of experience that when I match it with that sense of duty, I feel compelled. I have volunteered to serve my country before. I volunteer to serve it now. If we will simply restore the founding constitutional, Tea Party, Republican, conservative principles on which our country was founded and which made us the greatest economic power and force for moral good on the face of the planet, if we'll simply restore those principles, we can turn the light of liberty back on in this shining city on a hill and make Michigan and America as great again as we have ever been. I'm committed to that mission, and I ask your support in my candidacy for the United States Senate. God bless you.
Thank you.
Next up, our representative from Pete Kenichi's campaign. Keith, and I know I'm going to pronounce your last name wrong. Candiega.
Okay, it's Kazianka. There's a test on that at the end of the evening. Not a lot of time for political rhetoric. Instead, I've got a plan here that my boss, my new boss, Pete Kenichi, running for U.S. Senate, his whole platform is right here. In this little book, it's a mock constitution. Okay? Anything that's constitutional, you're going to see Pete Kenichi support. Anything that's not constitutional, let's do away with. Simple as that. A little bit about Pete. He's a businessman. He's never been a politician. He's never run for political office. He, as a matter of fact, was kind of hearing when I first met him. We walked on his property. There's about 70 acres down the Roscoff. And there's a little one-bedroom shack of a house. And that's where he and his family started out. He's a Michigan State graduate in accounting. And his first computer, we said, was the size of his living room. But he created software that many attorneys' offices use nationwide nowadays. And that was his niche. So when you talk about a self-made businessman, he did that. But he really had no intentions of running for office until a lot of people like you here said enough is enough, to borrow from a friend of mine. And we got to change this thing. You know, basically, if the federal government were following the Constitution as written, we wouldn't be in any of the trouble that we're in now. Can you imagine, just imagine, Monday morning, the EPA gets a pink slip, okay? Because there's nowhere in the Constitution that provides for the Environmental Protection Agency, okay? How many mines in the state of Michigan, how much forestry would be accomplished without that red tape? You know, when the people or the states take on a project or oversee a project, it flourishes. When the federal government does it, time and time again, what do we get? Okay, so everything the federal government is allowed to do is in this book, And it's under Article 1, Section 8, and Article 1, Section 9. If it's not there, the federal government can't do it. It's very simple. It spells out what the federal government can do. The federal government can only do what the people or the states cannot do. Okay? Patents, use of weights and scales, a military service. One commander in chief, it can't be 50. Simple things like that. That's what the federal government's there to do. And if it's not there, they can't be implemented. We're violating our Constitution. Okay? I know everybody running for this office right now, the Senate seat, are good people. I don't think there's ever been any bad people or bad intentions. But they all have different plans. And what I'd like you to do as an educated electorate is to get on Pete Konecny's website, it's konechny.us, and look at his position. Now, the man has written over 30 position pages, everything from abortion to immigration to Social Security, the budget, how to balance the budget, everything is there. A lot of these papers were written in 2010, as a matter of fact. I've never worked for anybody, I've worked on campaigns, where every position is in writing. Okay, there's no cloudy area, no gray area there. And if you agree with it, that's what you say. He has solutions to everything that we're asking for. It's all constitutional. When you give it to the free market flourishes. Okay, to give you an example, is energy independence. You know, the United States has more oil than the OPEC countries combined, okay, in the continental U.S. If we were allowed to have the free market drill that oil, not only would be energy independent, and the price of gasoline would come down to whatever the fair market value is, because there'd be competition, there'd be many jobs, there'd be $30 billion a month that we wouldn't be sending overseas to our enemies, and we could be an energy exporter, like Canada. You know, we could be the OPEC countries. Things like that, it's very simple. There's nothing in the Constitution saying that the government has the right to have a Department of Energy. Department of Education. That department needs to go today, okay? All it has done is dumb down our people, our students. See? Something like we're going to take away your small arms, okay? We're going to do away with the Second Amendment. This generation here is going to fight them, and they know that. But if we can put things in the school books that are in the school books today, over generations, we'll have them softened up enough to where they feel that the United States is no different than any other country in the world. And that's what we're teaching our kids. Not that the United States is the greatest country in the world, because we're free, but no, we're a one-world government, okay? We want our kids learning the same thing here as they do in Libya, okay? We don't want to teach math, science, history, real history. We want to teach acceptance. We want to teach how to get along with those that are possibly different than us. And sex education, and all these different things that are in the school books now that I just, I don't agree with. And the federal government gives very little money to the educational system, but they dictate what is being taught. Okay? A lot of these policies come from the United Nations. Okay, we're participating in the United Nations. I personally think we should say to the United Nations, goodbye, it's been nice, but we really have no use for you. Okay? We don't want your agendas in the United States. We're a separate and free people. And when I first started working on campaigns, I was there to hope to change the government, change the society for better, and to protect our freedom. I don't feel like that anymore. I think that day has gone by. Ronald Reagan said, freedom is one generation away. It's generational. We already lost it. Okay? Now what I'm campaigning for is to take back our government and take back our freedoms. We have the candidate to do that, Pete Konechny, because we lost it. Okay? If you don't believe in me, if you think that the government fears us and the people don't fear the government, what would you do if tomorrow morning there was 3 IRS agents and 1 Homeland Defense or Department of Homeland Defense agent at your front door? Would that be a positive thing? Would you welcome them? Come on in, guys. Great to see you. You know, no, the typical American would fear that because they would, what did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. Why are these people here? That's wrong. Okay? We've gotten so far away from what we started, from the Constitution, how it was set up, that we're almost brainwashed into thinking this is normal. It's not. Okay? The government should answer to the people, and the people should not fear the government. It's simple. It's all in the Constitution. We have a guy that, well, he's probably the most brilliant constitutional person I've ever seen anybody stump him on anything. He has it in writing on his website. Please go to his website, or if you want materials mailed to you, I can certainly do that to you. Do that for you. Sorry. But there's every position there is, and how we solve our problems, how we have a balanced budget, and how to balance the budget within and keep it balanced. Okay, actual plans, this is what we do, A, B, and C. And it'll work. But, you know, we gotta get people to vote, take a look at all the candidates, look at their policies, see what they stand for, and then vote for the best choice here. I don't have any use for the word electability, okay? Peter's a great candidate. If he needs his name recognition put out there, which he needs, because a lot of people say, who the heck's Benishek? Can't even pronounce Benishek. That's what I'm here for. That's what the campaign's here for. We'll give him name recognition, I guarantee it, okay? If he needs money to run, that's what we're here for. We'll provide him with the money to run. But please look at all the candidates, educate yourself on them, and make the best decision. That's all it is. Thank you very much.
Next up, Randy Ekman from Randy Ekman.
You know, and I've always been taught that the mind can't absorb more than the seat can endure. So stand up, why don't you, for at least 60 seconds. Get a little oxygen and, you know, with the circulation.